Hey everybody, this is My Side of the Fence podcast.
It is something
This week we are featuring Sara Brescia. She is a sitting school board member and currently running for re-election. So I hope you enjoy it.
Whose kids were either almost
Is it running?
graduated or had graduated,
All right.
and it's like, can you
Yeah,
see?
it's
the
whole
you had the benefit of raising
editing
your
thing.
kids under
Do you edit
a-
much?
Oh, well,
Under the
when I'm making
zero.
a video, and,
Right,
yeah,
right.
under the thread of the zero.
Editing in there.
And,
I mean, the AI does make it easier.
here I
in
am
terms of,
saying,
like, I have a
and,
software which is like,
you know,
tell me the
elected,
3 seconds
not
that are.
I would hope
make
not just
Right.
a film for
but
you know
a
as
minute.
a
Tell me the 3 seconds.
big
that are most
as
A big piece of it.
in this
as a
minute.
pretty big piece
And
of it.
if I have,
was,
you know, 4
to
clips
get rid of
that are
this,
long,
and I'm
I
looking
can
at
now
people
put
whose
together
lives this doesn't
a
impact at
15-second
all,
video
Right.
really fast.
Yeah.
you know,
with
and
that,
that's,
but
and
I
it is
still,
repealed
you know,
now.
there's
It
still
is
a lot of
replaced with a
human,
policy that delegates it to the
judgment.
superintendent.
There is.
So we do not
Everybody,
have
this
our
is
grading policy for the
Episode
next school
2,
year, but we did
Season 2, My Side of the Fence.
unanimously
I am
agree
here
to,
with both
repeal it,
candidate
go back to our
and
previous
member
way
of
doing
a
things,
school
which was
board,
the
Sara
superintendent
Brescia.
decides. Yes, my
grading
first time
system
being both of those.
is-
It was
That's exactly
unusual
right.
that it was a policy.
So
It's
we're talking.
exciting to vote
We're
on
talking a little
board.
bit about like
period. So this is going back to our
social
previous
media
practices,
posting,
going back to what
podcasting, stuff
actually
like that.
how most
If you don't
boards
follow
handle this,
Sara
because
on
it should be
socials, you
something
should.
that can
She
be
does a
adjusted
fantastic
fairly
job of
easily
editing
and
those
doesn't have
things
to go through
with
a
those little kids. I don't know how that makes it harder.
process.
It's funny because my
with
kids,
a vote
they
and all this kind
know.
of stuff.
Like
So,
my son
I was
will
glad to
take
see
out
that.
my little
I'm eager to see what's
tripod,
going to happen
and he
next.
will.
I don't know what's
Oh,
going to
he'll
happen.
hit it on
And
the
he will
ground.
do it. Like he knows how to do. You know, and he'll be like video. You know, he'll grab my little remote.
But for me,
and
it
he'll
was
turn-
like,
you know,
well,
he'll turn
Right.
it
either
on,
it's this
and
thing
that
I
can get
hate,
upset
or
if I do not let him.
or it's going to be something different.
thing,
So
right.
I think
Yeah, you know, we
I
actually
feel good about
have for the
something
podcast.
different.
So we have 2 podcasts.
Also, when I look, you know,
We have
Fairfax
My
was
Side
a
of the
big
Fence, which was
inspiration
previously
for
audio
for the
only.
policy I didn't like.
And then-
Fairfax had
Yeah, you were on it twice.
Loud
And then we
has it
have
back.
Matrix
This
Company podcast.
kind of policy is just
And we
on the
actually have
retreat in
a
general,
student from
so
Osmond who
I
edits
was
that we got
idea.
from what's the name of that
So I
program?
am so that was an easy
Eric.
yeah
yeah.
our CTE.
I'm related to him.
Yeah.
I should know that.
We'll see what actually happens. I'm sure it's not. He would actually. I'm not designing it, so I'm sure it's not going to be.
He would.
What
Right.
exactly
He would.
Well, I would want. But
At least maybe
we've
had.
right. It's
we
going
haven't
to be
sent
better
out
than
a
what it was
lot
before.
of invites
And so,
for
and this
season
is, and I
2
try to actually
podcast.
do things. I actually try
Just
to solve
because
problems. Like
we've
I
had.
actually,
Well, we've
I
done
do,
all this.
You know, like with this.
And-
special
you built it.
education
Yeah,
stuff.
right. Like
If
it
you
doesn't.
build it, the people will come.
Yeah,
Like, that's good.
like it doesn't look like much,
Another
but
thing I did recently.
so much work
It's
goes
a ton.
into.
It's a lot that goes.
So
I mean, I know
but
I'm
I'm
a
on the policy
new
media
media personality
personality
as
as
well.
well.
Like
Like
it's
there's
more
a
than
cycle that our policies
you
are
realize.
all
And actually, if you look at the
reviewed on,
timestamps in a lot of my videos and
yeah,
a
I'm
lot of my
looking
reels
through
and
these
stuff like that,
updates,
you'll
and there are
notice they're
things
like
in
1
there,
a.m.
like,
Yeah.
and you will-
Yeah,
and
I believe it.
policy, the board
And I have,
shall receive
you know,
an
I've got to put my
annual
kids to
update.
bed, and you have to
Well, I've been on the board
post them
for
pretty
4 years.
Never got it.
contemporaneously
And I've
to
not
whatever it
forgotten
is
it.
you're doing.
And so
Like
it's
I
like,
did make a
okay,
video, or I
let's pull
recorded
this
a video
out,
for the joint meeting,
and we need to discuss
because sometimes these things are required by
council
statute.
Sure.
A few
Sometimes
weeks
the
ago
State
now,
House
and it
says
just
Right.
it just didn't get up. And
we
I'm
need to
like,
get to the bottom of this.
I mean, I
and
still
figure
put up
out
my static
if
posts,
we
like,
need
with the
to
photos and with
either
Right.
start
and
doing
that's
The
fine.
agenda.
And yeah, and that did fine.
Or
And
if
I-
we
my
do not
summary
have
of
to
the
do it, we have
meeting
to
got
decide
out
if we
there.
want
But
it.
you do
and
have
go
on
from
social
there,
media,
because what
you
we
have
should
your
not
video
have
people
are
and you have
policies
your
that
reading people.
that
Oh,
say
yeah.
something
And
that
they
we're
are
not
different
actually
people.
doing.
Like they are
that
different. You know, the
undermines
video people,
our-
they go
That's
in
bad.
to
that's
their
bad.
social
We
media
can't-
apps and all they see
yeah,
are
that's
videos.
bad.
From just
And
governance,
but
administrative
conversely, you have
trust
people
who
no
prefer to
angle in which
read
it's
or
okay.
see static
And there
photos,
was just,
and they don't really
half
see
a dozen
videos, and the
just in
algorithm
a
has
single
figured out
meeting.
that these
My
are two
first
separate
time
people.
sitting
Oh
in
yeah,
the
well,
policy
and
meeting.
it's
Oh
I
my
mean
God.
outside of
And this
social
is
media
the only
for
things I actually see or
podcasts,
know about are the
you
things
definitely
that
have your video
I have
people and your
insight
audio
into. So I
people.
know the school
And you
board
ask your
has
audio
not gotten
people like, would you be interested in a
field
video
trip
option? They're like, I don't need that crap.
No, I know. Well, and that's
Clear, I'm not casting
actually this is
aspersions on our
I thought it was so funny that
superintendent
you
or
did move
anything. At one
into
point, he was
video-
new,
a video
and
podcast
nobody
world because
probably
this is
told him
attention
that
in the
we
podcast
need an annual
world
fee.
right
You
now
know, like
where
so it's
Right.
This is
podcasting
it's natural that things
Stuff that
happen.
happens.
You know, its
happens,
origin is
right.
an audio
You know,
medium.
There's a
and,
million
oh,
of
thank
those
goodness,
Time
I do these
passes,
long drives.
you know,
and I
boards
finally
change
have
out,
really
whatever board
engrossing and
voted
engaging
on
to listen to
annual field trip
and now
reports
you're
is
gonna
not
take
there
my
anymore.
favorite
And
audio
and
format
do
and
the
you're
people
going to
even
make
voted on
it
it
visual,
remember
and now this is
necessarily that
totally
they did
different.
Why they
It
did
doesn't
it.
fit
Or why
into
they my life while I make
it's-
dinner, or it doesn't fit
you
into
just
my
have to
life while I
revisit these things.
have a long
Yeah.
drive. I have insights into
especially when you
those kinds of
get
things,
like
but I don't
for
have
my side of the
insight
fence,
into,
it's not
you know,
as big a
does
deal.
every
Like
single,
we don't have a
if we
producer over
have a
there,
policy saying
and
something
Sarah and I
like,
are not looking at like
every,
video clips or something.
teacher gets
You'll see that like
however
on
many
the
observations
big,
a
top
year
3 or
that goes
4,
into their annual
top
evaluation.
100
I have
probably
no idea. As a
podcasts
board
like
member,
on
I know way to
YouTube.
know that.
They're audio.
And
There's an
other
audio
school
only
divisions
version,
have
but it's pretty
ombudsman
clear. They're like,
offices
oh, pull up that
or
clip of
internal
blah, blah, blah,
audit
blah, blah. And I'm
offices.
just
They
like, well, I can't see the clip, but
rotate
all right, whatever.
schools, or they rotate through
It
departments,
doesn't
and
really
they do it
hurt my
it's
feelings.
your turn.
And right,
Okay,
stripping the audio
these are all
from the
policies
video
that apply to
is
you. Are
dead
you
simple.
complying
So
with all of
I
them?
still put out my side of the fence audio
They
only,
generate reports
but we've
that
started
get it
doing
either fixed
the
at the
video
department
stuff, too.
level or building level, or
I'll be interested to
generate
see how
recommendations
it
to the school board,
evolves
like
and who in your
Well,
policy
sometimes
audience.
some of those things
I
get
do
left
suspect you're
behind
gonna
because
have that your
you know
audio is
those
gonna
those
remain
those policies that you're not
the more
complying with.
popular
Well,
of the two.
I don't know.
So
I
we'll see.
don't, maybe that requires
It is
really
very
in
interesting
person.
to see. And
Right.
And that
well, those are my-
person
that,
just
on
got
my social
defunded,
media to
and
see
you know
what-
here you are 4 or 5 years
Right,
later.
I mean, it just
performs well.
happens. Like, someone retired and
Right. You just took savings.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now I have more of a
and
video
what they
audience,
were
and so now
doing,
those
or
videos
they were,
are starting-
the person
Video-
who retired, they
for
were
my
doing
static
static, and let's say they were in a
posts,
position
and
to
it's,
train their replacement.
interesting to see
But the
that
replacement doesn't know why they were doing what they
That's
were
right.
doing.
My
So I'm gonna
experience-
decide to
my
do it differently, or I'm going to
limited
decide to drop
experience
it, or I'm going to
is
decide
that
whatever. But you don't
well,
realize that
the
there
video
was,
stuff just gets
at some
way
point
more
a reason for it, and so
traffic
I
for me.
suggested to the
You know, I
school
can put
board
up
that we
like I put up a
policy
picture
audit,
of
so we need to
a
go
piece
through
of
and see,
tape.
okay,
Someone had
our
stuck
policy
to
says,
a
this is the
swinging gate
number of
and down in
observations,
Colonial
or this
Beach,
is the number
and they had
of
written on it.
evaluations
It was
our
orange
employees
tape.
are getting.
They had written on it
Emergency-
emergency
yeah,
exit. Does
I
the
mean,
state
I
audit
was
those
like,
policies at
if
all?
you tried something
I mean, the
like
state
that
audits,
in Nova,
it's,
like
you
the
know,
city
General
or the
Assembly
county
goes
or
through-
whatever,
you'd get a complaint. You'd get a
Yeah.
piece of paper stuck. to
they
you,
would put you in
right,
jail.
Right, yeah.
But down there, it's just sort of like,
and
you know,
we
I
do
get
have
it, man.
to.
You didn't want to
present
actually
to them
fix
as
the
part of
gate, which is what you didn't see in
process.
that picture.
Yeah.
The
Do
gate's
we have
sacked.
policies
So
that conform with the state
that stuff
guidelines, for
that I think is
example, on
way
retention,
funnier
holding kids
than
back a grade?
some of the
People are
videos. Like
trying
the
to
last
talk to the
video
school
I
board
did
about
of
that
the
all
beach,
time, like, oh, why
the
don't you
river
hold
was
more
super
kids back?
angry. It
It's
was
the
really
laws actually
windy,
written in
and I just
education who sets those
panned my
guidelines.
phone.
Oh, is that right?
Hit
The
stop,
Virginia
called it
Department
a
of
day, and
Education
posted it.
does come through,
Crushed.
and
Crushed.
that's part of when you hear
I don't-
us fully
yeah,
accredited or
and
not fully
I don't know. I don't want to.
Oh, wait.
I don't want to give all
Not
away all
accredited.
of my secrets.
Yeah, well,
here
from a
in
policy
Isn't it?
in a public,
What's the
you know,
other?
especially
So
now.
There's accreditation. There's
I'll come back
And then
on
there's the
after
accountability.
November.
Accountability,
There
that's
are more
right.
of My
So
video
it's
secrets,
accreditation
but
and accountability.
Right.
It
It
is
is
separate
interesting.
Things now.
so policy would be accredited.
Yes.
What gets
so
people's
policies are
attention,
accredited.
It is.
And so the
Gains
state
people's
does come
attention,
through and they do these.
and-
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and
how
in order to
you
become
do have to
fully
think
accredited, we have to
differently
demonstrate
about
compliance
how
with,
those
how you
DOE.
grab
Sure.
someone's attention in a written format versus how you grab someone's
So
attention
there
in a
is
video
that
format.
that's in there.
And
But
I have many ways that
annual
I
field
communicate
trip
with people. Like I have my
reports to the-
newsletter
or
as
annual
well, and that's
fundraising
like my
reports,
advanced
like,
placement
from
class.
the
Right? That's the
fundraisers that our
longest
kids
thing.
and
That's
Those are the people that want to read.
Those are
There's
you
also
are
the
really you're
policy
sitting down for a good long read. So
to
it's
do
like
that.
those
And I
kinds
get
of things.
and it's very popular.
don't
I get a
get
lot of engagement through that. and I get
a lot of people
Right.
who mention it to
Sign
me
up.
or
Yeah,
who
sign
sign
up.
up
So
organically.
I want to go
because
back
people forward
away
it or
from
whatever, so
the
that works
education
very well.
nerd stuff
Then
and go back
the
to
photo posts with
well, I'm a
longer
nerd.
stories.
All right. Okay.
So we're talking
the
about like long
campaign
attention
stuff.
span,
What do you hear
medium
most?
attention
Right,
span,
right,
and then
right.
video.
Oh,
video
I mean,
is
people-
like
Right.
I have
Other than city
20
problems.
seconds.
That's exactly
Most
right.
is city problems.
To explain-
Most people who want to talk to me about their parking or
detail.
about their
Right, like, that's-
utility bill or
Right, yeah. Well, you know,
have to hear people
it's
out, but I'm
interesting
very sorry to
because
inform them.
when I was involved in politics,
the most common
there
thing I
wasn't
hear
so
is,
much
"Well, I don't
social
have
media. I mean, it existed.
That's the most common
but it wasn't really
phrase
much of
that
a
I
thing.
hear.
People,
in my
Blogs were a
report to
thing.
That is like, well, you still have a
Yes,
vote,
you have one of
don't you?
those.
I haven't written for it in
do.
years. I just,
And people are like,
I
well,
still
yeah, do
write, but
have
I
a
don't
vote, and
post.
So
I just,
sometimes
when
people
I
are like,
write,
I
it's
don't,
to help me.
I don't have
things
kids.
out.
I don't
Just
vote
to make
for school
sure
board,
that
and I'm
like
not
what
gonna
I'm
start now,
thinking
goodbye. Sometimes
actually
that happens.
jives with
That's not the most common.
what's happening.
That's not
You
the
know,
most common
it's funny you
response,
say that
but it does
because it's
happen.
the same
where
thing
people
with
are
That's
like,
brutal.
It's actually very helpful for me to have
That's
for
brutal.
myself as an office holder. If I can't explain it in my
School board's a funny
newsletter,
office.
if I can't write it out,
because it's people are
or
like,
if I
well,
cannot
you
summarize
kids,
this
so it
quickly
doesn't matter. And I'm
in
just
a,
like, well, there's
you
plenty
know,
of people
in a
who don't have students.
longer social media post.
Well, and the other thing is, the thing that
then
you'll see, especially
what-
on
then I
social
need to
media,
stop-
because
then I
it's easy
need
to
to
do, right?
take a
What
pause
you'll
and I
see
need to
there
think
is,
through it a
well,
little
you know,
more
I don't
because I
have
need to
any children in the
be able to
system, so
explain
I
it,
don't
and I
feel
do
like
go
I should be
through the
paying
trouble
taxes.
and
to
not
educate
every
other
in fact,
people's kids.
most
And what I
elected
always want to reply to
here
them
as
is,
a city,
who do you think educated you?
if
somebody did.
most of them do
this
some
is-
version of
pay
this.
for it.
I think I'm
This is
the
a
only
group
one who
project.
does
Yeah,
all
this
this.
is a group project.
You're you're
So
pretty
I
much
don't hear that so
you know,
much.
one
I
stop
hear-
shop for all media.
See it on Facebook.
I
So
don't see that.
I am. I hear I don't have kids,
But it does
so I don't
help
know.
me stop and
So
be
I'm
like,
skeptical of
okay,
you. I don't
so
think that I don't
Right.
know
what is the
care.
one? I have to get this.
Caring to vote for
I'm
me.
trying to make a video for
but
this whole meeting, and we covered 4 topics.
if people do have an opinion
and what
on
is
the schools,
the
it's usually
one
negative.
sentence
Yeah.
takeaway?
You know, it's just like
bullet
well, the
points that I
schools are
can
bad
put on
and,
your phone screen for
I
no
don't,
more than 3
and
seconds.
I don't like that they're bad.
Right, I
What we
don't
talked
like,
about
and that's
what
the
it means.
voters speak.
Yeah.
And
It's not
it really
voters
forces me to.
speaking. And so
uh,
it's like, well,
It really,
I'm not-
it's actually. I'm not going to be
It-
the school
if you
board
can
member
reduce
who
stuff to
denies that
writing,
we have a lot of
It
work
means
to
you,
do, right?
and it's
We have
coherent.
a lot of work.
You
to
understand
do.
it.
That's
Then you can communicate.
right. That
You know,
is
I see this
just-
down in
there's
Colonial
no
Beach.
ifs, ands,
There's
or buts around it, and
there's
we can't,
they have a town council and a
like I
mayor,
was saying,
and really
one
there's
of the
only
last
one or
times I
two
was
people
here,
on the
you know,
town
it's like the
council
personal trainer. I'm
who
gonna fire the
bother
personal
much trying
trainer
to
who tells
communicate
me,
through
"Ah, you're
social
done
media.
for the day.
And
The
it's
personal
usually
trainer
like
I want is the
newsletters
personal
that they
trainer
just
who says,
post.
"Give me 5 more
But
reps. I know you can."
down there,
It's going to be hard, but
I
know
mean,
you can
that's
do it. And you need to do
considered
it to meet your goals.
relatively
Right? That's the kind of person
aggressive
that you
to try and communicate
that
in such a
role.
way.
And so
And it literally it's
that's the
just
kind of
them.
person that I
They
try
have a
to be
PDF
on the school
of
board,
their
and it's not
newsletter, and it's usually one page. And they
Sometimes,
just post that to their Facebook, you know.
people misunderstand
you know,
either
Colonial Beach
innocently
page.
or
Right.
So
by design
and, you know,
my
they're
tone or
20 years
intent behind
ish,
some of
odd,
my
20 odd years
inquiries,
behind us,
but it is
sure.
a.
well, that's
But
different jurisdictions.
I
have
wouldn't do
different
anything to a school
norms.
system
I mean,
that I'm invested
people
through.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
gotten
Most of
16 years
most of
in,
my
so
Well,
feedback
and the
is
most
very
valuable
positive
things in your
on
life
the things
Yeah.
that
are
I
children.
have.
Yes.
People are very happy to see
Yes.
them.
Oh my God. Oh my God. My kids give me
Very
such.
happy
They're
to
so
see
funny.
the
We ran
frequency of my
into.
posts.
So we
There are
ran into
definitely
help
some people who
parish at the grocery store today.
So when I started writing my blog,
The kids
there
are like, "Do
was
you help your mom with school
an
board?"
inquiry from one
And
of
my
my
kids
fellow
were like,
elected people
"No,
of the
it's
city attorney as
boring."
to whether or not my daughter wouldn't be
City
involved
could
with
shut it down.
She,
yeah,
when I had a project that I did
It wasn't quite
called
that
Manassas
overt in my
Next.
case, but
Which
yeah, it was.
did a number of
it was
things.
a.
Yeah.
There
I got my
definitely been
daughter
some
to help me
historically some
shoot
tension around
a
it.
video for each
and
part
when
of
it
it.
was new.
And you know, I edited them
Yeah,
down.
it was
I
new.
did
It was
that.
new to the school
But
board.
after
I
that,
believe. Like
yeah,
I don't know,
don't
you know, and
think-
I was
she
not
might
here
have
for a very,
attended
very long time.
my first
before I
swearing
got
in.
on the school board.
But
and
after
I was not
that,
aware of anything
she
else
was
quite
checked
like
out.
that.
I know.
The schools
when I
itself
got
don't
when I
put
got out of
newsletter,
office,
although
she
that
was
soon is
maybe
gonna
a
be
teenager.
changing.
And
So
I had a
it
retirement
was kind of
ceremony.
like a, wait a
and I was like,
second.
"Are you coming? Are you
Right. What
interested
is
in this?" And
this?
she's like, "No."
Because it had started as a political.
Yeah, it's just like,
right,
I wouldn't be
just-
doing it if it weren't for you guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing it at all if it weren't for you.
Yeah.
But
it's,
it's know what I'm running
so-
on
Right,
and all
right,
that kind
right.
of stuff.
So
That's how the
people
list
who have-
started.
And then you got elected.
And then I'm
So I
elected,
hear
and so
that
now
from
the
voters.
list is
Yeah.
informational.
Yeah,
I don't
Right.
like, and so,
don't perform
and I
as
think a
well
lot
as
of
you could.
people,
Now, there
there's
is good news
people,
in
a
our
lot of
school
people have
system, and a lot of
political,
people are not aware of
I've
that good
gotten
news.
emails
For
from
example,
people
was the
running
number one
for
school
on
in
all
local
local office,
Virginia for-
you know,
for
my yard
grade
sign
sign
got
right
or
in
whatever. Like
Washington
that
Post.
Saw
wasn't
that.
really breaking
Yes.
new territory.
And the
What
principal was
No.
invited
territory
down to the
was,
Virginia Association
oh, and
of
now
State
I'm going to be telling
Superintendents
you
to give
pretty
a
much in
presentation
detail
about
what we
you know,
discussed,
what's going on in
and who
that
said
school.
what.
I started as soon as
Well,
that happened.
and that's
I
the
started
thing.
spending more
And
time
who
around
voted
that
how,
school,
and
I mean,
events
especially
like that.
well, since we don't
And
have
it
a
is
little
a
paper.
school community
There,
that
there's
is
no other way.
really
I mean, short of attending
gelling,
all those
you know,
meetings,
where there's
that
a
can be
lot
tough. But
of really exciting things that are. You know,
that's
the
great.
morale
There's
is
no other
good.
way to
We
find
don't get
out
emails out
except
of
for,
Queens Elementary School.
you know,
I can always.
secondhand.
I have to
and
kind of
that is
affirmatively
various
decide.
accuracy.
Well, and it is. It does
Check in on places where I'm not
the
getting emails.
tension that has kind of come up
Because
with
like,
this
okay, I'm getting emails, so
over
I
the
know what's
past
going on with
and
you. But
even
what's
Happy people don't email.
Listen,
We're happy people
this
don't
is
email. I'm
Sarah's
not hearing
newsletter.
any. You know,
Right.
this
I
is
don't get
nobody
emails
else
out
is
of
Right,
newsletter.
right.
Let me
It
go
is
to
Sarah's
let me see what's
newsletter.
going
So
on.
if Sarah
And-
says,
and it's a
part of the
school
reason I
community that's
supported
really
the
coming
purchase of
together in a
8700
really positive
Centerville
way.
was because of
And
the alternative school.
They're doing it.
Maybe that
despite
wasn't your
being
reason,
a-
but it was mine. And it's going to
Yeah,
go into the
I
newsletter.
don't hate to say it
And
kind of that way,
if
but
you want
it's
one,
happening.
you know,
despite the fact that not everybody
could
speaks
go
the
ahead
same
and do
language,
it,
like
or
in a literal sense.
if the division
but
wanted
their
one,
PTO division could go ahead.
events
Yeah.
and
And I'm
PTO
supportive of the division,
meetings
too.
are
For the
fully
record, I'm supportive
translated,
of
right?
right? They have
Damn,
some
more is
people
better.
doing that
doing
out
that too,
there.
and people
But
come.
because
People
for a long
come
time
and
I've
Good for
occupied
them.
this space,
That's what it takes,
and
though.
it's just like, oh, Sarah's news is
and
the school's
I'm
news. And
going
that's
back to
not
Baldwin.
true.
I'm like,
Right.
we gotta start
And there's a
translating our
disclaimer at the bottom and stuff. This is not the school's news. This is Sarah's news.
Even
So
but
it's it's,
well, the city attorney did prevail
really
upon me to
been,
put
a
a footer on it, said like, this is not City of Manassas
Baldwin's
official whatever.
scores are approaching.
So
they're not
tell
there,
us
but
about,
they're starting to approach the state
so the
average
new
in
dean, I was
11
over there on
categories,
the
so that's
pickleball
exciting.
courts
Hayden's,
the other day.
scores,
And
I'm not
you need
talking
one
about
of
the
those-
last school year.
They need
The
to
only
put
data
that
that I
plastic
have
sheeting
is
stuff on the fences to
from 2
block
years
the wind,
ago,
right? Like they do
that
on
the
some of the
state has
tennis
actually
courts.
released.
But
So from
pickleball
2
courts
years
are
ago,
fabulous. And it looks like that
improved
school's getting
in
pretty
every
close.
category
Yes,
by
the school,
6%.
it's on track.
And
It's
that's
on time.
exciting.
Is it gonna be open for the
Osborne
fall?
was judged on track.
Really?
His kids
Which
are going to go
was-
under the
kids are gonna
new
go to school
accountability
there.
system.
We
Judged
have
on
started
track,
now
which was under
the process of
previous
actually
system where
No, we're in
accreditation
July.
and
I believe the
accountability were
process is
combined.
moving.
Right.
It was
officially
not. It didn't get. It was not
Was-
fully
that's
accredited
fantastic.
under
I
that
know.
old
Yes.
system. So like
That's
it was
an
a very. So a lot of people don't
knock
know
on whatever this is.
that
Yeah,
there
some
is.
sort of thing.
Is this wood?
Yeah, that's
I'll
wood.
find some.
I sanded that. That's actual wood. The
okay,
problem
that's
is you're not really going to be
actual
able to
wood.
tell
So knock
that
on wood that
story
this
for
has
another year
been
because of the
a
change
low
in
drama
systems. You
project.
know how
It
much
is-
it seems like
right.
it's right.
Well,
time,
yeah,
on budget,
but we can see.
on
But
track,
it's also
you know,
at
it's
in
not in the
Osborne's
news
case,
because it's
algebra
going
improved
okay.
by 10 points.
It's going okay.
Right.
That's a
Get to
double-digit
be in
improvement
there.
in a single year.
You know, on the
That's
first
great.
day.
I'll take it.
I'll take
By
it.
the way,
Yeah,
anyone who's
I will
keeping
take
track,
that.
we are halfway through summer break as of
And I
tomorrow.
want to say, send that.
So-
That's not true of every
So what's
school.
the deal with the old school?
What's
Round
the deal with the
Elementary
old
school,
school?
if you're on
Well,
social
the
media,
old
you
school
you
is,
probably
as you
saw
know,
a lot of
a
posting about
Old
Round.
school.
They had a
It's
really
an old
tough year 2
school.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And it has a
They had a
level
really
of
tough year 2
historic
years
interest
ago.
in
They
it
have
than
a
our
new
other
principal. They had a new
schools.
prin-
They have a new
don't really
principal.
have.
Yeah.
She was new
And
last
so,
school year.
myself personally, and this
She
is
came in
just
with a
Sarah
job to do,
talking,
and
right,
I
some
do
of that is
feel like
very
we
uncomfortable,
owe it
and it's uncomfortable.
Sure.
It's uncomfortable work
our community,
to do that, but
and
the work
especially
needs be
to our
done.
community
So
who is
that
invested in
so
that
there's
school.
some uncomfortable
that
things that
we
are happening in
turn
Round,
every
but
corner.
I'm hoping
Like
to
we
see
turn over
positive
every rock.
Yeah,
in terms
yeah, I
of
think
what
that's-
are all of our
What we're
options
gonna see out of our
and
last
how much
school
do
year.
each of them cost, and
I'm hoping
all
to
that kind
see
of stuff. There's no
positive
pre-determined
movement
out
outcome.
there for that.
Mets is an-
because sometimes people go. Sometimes
I'm convinced
people
there's no
suspect
good
that
middle
elected
school.
bodies-
Just nowhere.
That's
It's
middle.
tough.
It's
Oh.
very tough.
Conclusion
It's very
for
tough.
I'm familiar with it.
But a lot
predetermined at the
has
end of it,
improved at
and
Mets.
I mean, for me, and
And
that's the only
the
person I
building's
can
more
speak on behalf
orderly.
of. There is no
Literally, they got
predetermined
new
outcome for
lights,
me. Like,
and
if
it's
it makes
a new school in there.
new
New
lights,
lights,
new
new
floors,
floors. We
new
do have
pamphlets,
some. It's
right.
brighter.
in
It
the
feels
division.
less.
You-
When I
the
first went into the
Institutional.
school, right?
It
Yeah.
Feels much better in
center
there.
that is coming
The
down.
security has gotten
in a
much
few,
better
you
in
know,
there.
in the next 4 years.
The
although
mood
we
has
can
gotten
stay
much
there.
better in
Well, that's
there.
good.
And that's all important.
for the
I need
next
to see
school
that
year.
in the scores,
Right.
right? That's what is. That's
So we do
you know,
have.
But again,
some-
at
that's
the
not
end of
an
the day,
overnight
that's
thing
what it
either.
is.
Yeah.
But you
We do
cannot
some
have
space
good
basic
scores
you
in a
know, needs.
disorderly
Robotics
school,
is
and at
another
least
one
now
that
I
I
feel
mentioned.
confident
Yeah, we
the
don't
school has
have
become
dedicated
Yeah.
indoor
a lot more orderly.
practice
So I'm
facilities
excited
that are the
to
correct
see,
size for them, so they have
what we
to
can
do
do
there
there,
because I know
they
our students are
assemble
not
part of
reaching their
the
potential.
That's not their maximum
they have to
potential.
do.
Right.
And I know it
Right.
because
But they
when
can't
I look
ever
at their
have the
scores in
whole
sixth grade,
obstacle course
Right, right.
put together, and
Yeah.
there are others
There's a theme
assemble
here.
that obstacle
Yeah.
course that
So
stays
we
up. Like our
can,
robotics team, they
so
have to spend their
I-
time
so there's
assembling this little
there's reason
part
for
and
hope
taking
in
it
all
down.
of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Every
not
and
what
use every
we-
part of
it's
their
not a matter.
practice
It's
to do
not
that. And
hopeless.
so,
And so I
Right.
try to when I'm talking
ideally,
with somebody
you
at
want
the
to see
doors.
them
It's like, listen,
not
there
do
is.
that. So,
You know, if you want to vote
let's
for
see
somebody who's not afraid of
what we
these-
might be able
of
to
this,
do.
That seems pretty low intensity.
if you
right?
want to vote
You
for
know,
somebody
it's
who
not
is
1,000 kids in the
willing
building.
to raise
It's
her hand and
a handful
be that
and a big
annoying
empty
44
space.
question girl
Right,
about
right. It's complicated.
Right,
Yeah.
we do run in the meeting where I had 44 questions
into
was
roadblocks
about
and
our
continuous
blocks
improvement
that
plans for
are
our
coming
schools.
up
So
that
it's like, look, this
seem
is
to be coming up, and that
really
seems
important.
to,
Right.
there seems to be
Sure
a
it
new
is.
one every day.
that I
You know,
understand.
we might
and
get
at
to
the
a
public
point where
understand.
the best. Or
Because this is also something
only
that drives me
option
kind of nuts about
is
school board meetings in
decommissioning
general, is
the
that there's a lot of
building
acronyms
and,
and there's a lot
you
of
know,
jargon.
there is
This
also
a complicating
public-facing-
this whole thing is
Yeah, this is public
most
facing.
of the
So sometimes I'll ask a question. and
current,
then I'll hear
most of
back,
the old
"Oh, I
dean
can't believe she didn't know
was
what
built in
such and such
1959.
meant."
There's
It's
a
like, I know what that
1990
means.
Right.
It's not about
ish
me.
edition
It's about
that's them.
wing. I noticed
that
in the
was also
presentation
added on
that
at some
this
point. But what
acronym
people
was not
don't
defined.
realize
So let's
is that
Yeah, let's
can you you define that acronym for me?
1959,
Okay, so
Yeah.
somebody who was watching at
that
home
more stellar. They were
might be
a year
able to
apart, so
follow
I always mix
along.
them up.
But it's
1959,
so
60-ish
if you want to
building
vote for somebody,
was actually
who
built
is the squeaky wheel of
around
the school, I'm
an
your
older
squeakiest wheel.
structure.
A smaller, older structure.
It's
from the
me,
40s,
it's
but
I.
that
If you want to
actually
vote for
does
somebody
meet
who's in it for the
the
long haul
criteria
and in it
for
for the
the
right
National
reasons, it
Registry
is
Right.
me, it is
Places,
I. Like
even
this is,
whatever happens in November, and I very well might be washed out to sea because people want, and it does have some send a message to someone who doesn't know who I am within it. That very well might happen, but there's it was a vocational shop. This area that was subdivided into classrooms, like when the
Manassas seems like they're
part of the building was built,
electing
but in theory
ever
that
more
could be
blue people
rehabilitated to be like
that
what it looked like in the 40s.
The citizens, I would say, or at least most.
So
of
that
them,
part is like okay.
And
you don't want
to.
You don't want to just bring the bulldozers in and not think very carefully about.
We had Jackson Miller, who was our delegate. The next delegate is a Democrat socialist
that are coming. There's
Jackson, who's over here, and then Lee Carter, who's
this
over
is still
here.
very much in the middle of it, but we know more
on
now.
A local level, it's really
back
jarring.
When this process started. I come from. I was dean was going to get a new dean, right? In states, back in 2017, whenever that report was generated.
I spent my
we had not done this historical study, and actually the city did the historical study.
Part of what was so nice
we weren't
moving to
no one was
Virginia
aware of this
was
1940s. Section.
Right.
So it's like,
Virginia
okay,
as
well,
a
now
whole,
we know
because I
about
moved to
that. So
Arlington.
now we can.
Right.
So that was
the whole thing a lot more carefully.
So the first place I was Arlington. So that was I like the way Mark Wolf said it at our
Virginia as a
meeting.
state
was
was
not
so
a Lego
refreshing
set.
because
You can't just like
go all the way
cut it
here
off and
all
be
the
like,
way
okay,
there.
we're going to demolish this part
because anything can happen
put
to
a
any
door
of these
here
elected
and we're going to
they
this
know it.
part
So
to function. The HVAC is all the way over here. What matters all the way over there. Your electrical fuse box is over here, and so
really
even if you want to save
feeling
this little spot,
and
that still might end up being a very expensive.
Someone said to me,
proposition.
We don't have,
you might not
have
actually
a two-party
gain too
system.
much
We have two
from
one-party
partial
systems.
demolition
Because
in terms of cost.
The more you go under single-party rule,
that
the
is
incentives become
distorted.
distorted.
There's a lot that is
like this is not unique to Democrats.
But we all also have to
I don't want to
prepare
live
ourselves
in
for
Mississippi
the
either,
possibility
right? Like it depends on. It's just not a healthy dynamic. I actually like
the reality
in 2024.
of this comes in. We have to brace ourselves for the impact
voting, and I was there.
Maybe the patient can't be saved.
Democratic
we have to start talking more about how we memorialize.
I'm so glad you're
significance of the structure.
I'm so glad you guys are here, and that you guys have
less about the continued use of the structure.
Kind of a strange thing for a Democratic volunteer to say.
But that's.
I saw a thing in the Wall Street Journal today where they're taking old schools and repurposing for low-income housing.
Every organism.
So
I chuckled at that. I chuckled at that.
You could maybe do that
because that plot is actually zoned R1,
which is a residential zone.
Declare victory.
So in all of our little
contest of ideas
back and forths with the
and when you don't have it, you miss it.
Use permit. Right. Well, and that is what I hope we actually have.
It would not be.
We would need a use permit if we wanted to use Old Dean. We need all these special permits for all of these things. I'm just like, you know what? We could just, according to the zoning, we could just build a neighborhood on here. And if it's an idea,
what could go wrong?
Which is, I will clarify, is not something I actually want to do. I will be there. I'll see you there.
I thought it was funny.
When you posted that, because I was like, actually, we could do that by right, but I'm going to. But I got.
I'll show up.
I'll show up, and I got points to make.
Well, I mean,
it'll be
cities in
interesting to me as your
real
season
estate
two
business.
develops,
You
how
guys
many
could go
people
in.
there are some school divisions that
I
have
will
and do operate
share that prediction with you
housing
off camera.
Okay.
And you're happy to share whatever.
It's not without precedence, but. I do hesitate in getting involved in that.
It's a lot who's going to show up.
We've got 1,200 employees.
And at the end of the day, that's a political calculus.
Okay, and let's say you don't want to do no harm. At first, you do no harm.
Right. I feel like if I'm going to put my butt in that chair and talk to Harold for an hour or two, is it going to do me any good?
What happens if something happens to that
I think a lot of times, unfortunately,
what is
based on my season one experience, I don't think that there was a campaign going on.
And so I think that the city is starting to
there was
look
treasurer
at
and
workforce housing, or they've
looking at it. They're going to spend $6 million. They did. They did.
The city's kind of doing
but
it.
I asked
so I'm
sitting board members and council members.
My seat on the school board.
Not
to
very many of the school
I'm
board
not really
members
myself interested in getting into
show up.
residential.
It's a lot.
Some you're talking about property management and all that.
More of the council members showed up. The Mathis purchase.
Right.
I enjoyed talking to them. I guess it's the EDA. I don't have any reason
having to manage that
to just
property.
No, you have to manage it.
Thomas
And that's
probably
I don't
not
want
what
to
the
pick on
EDA
him and
people
say like, hey,
Sorry,
it's not
yeah,
for
no,
coffee.
and that
I mean,
is I used to work for
but
lawyers.
to sit down and do this, it's a
managed
longer
leases
conversation.
for,
I feel like.
commercial
Yeah.
Well, you
leases
need
for
to
shopping
be,
centers like
you need
that.
to be
I'll tell you
engaged.
what, that
You
was
need to express
their
yourself.
full time.
Yeah.
I do.
It's a lot, and I
was
really enjoyed
managing
talking.
It's a lot. I mean, it's and
you know,
we don't. God
agree
forbid
on
you
a
get
hell of a
involved
lot.
with the HOA.
That's okay.
I
You know,
loved his
we have an
episode.
HOA
I didn't
here
know that
where
he was
my office
a
building is.
radio disc jockey.
Like,
I love
the
it.
guy
I've
who's
actually
in
learned a
charge of
lot
it,
from every
he
single
was
person.
like, I knew
who's
none
gone
of
on
that
there.
about
You're
that.
not interested.
But
I'm like, no.
I
I'm not
thoroughly
interested
enjoyed
at all.
it, and obviously
And serving
I've
on
known
that
Wolf for a
'cause
long time. You know, we
no
served
one's ever
together,
happy
but,
at those meetings.
you know,
I feel.
No one's ever no one's ever happy at a lot of meetings, and
Yeah.
people do things anyway. People do things anyway. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. So this isn't. I generally don't. I don't have like questions I give people. Sarah did ask me like, "Hey, like, what's top of mind?" I'm happy to do that. But one thing I know, like, coming out of finally the state has a budget.
yeah.
How much did that impact you guys? Did it change things much for the schools?
So for us, we got what we expected, and then a little bit more. But there's still the superintendent's office is still kind of processing what that is.
Right.
Like we had in our proposed in our adopted budget, excuse me, we had in our adopted budget the things that we knew we could do, and then we had a list of 3 things that we were hoping to do
Right.
depending on what the state was going to do and what the city's also free to contribute to these unfunded, our unfunded needs as we called them. One of them was, and the top one, was funding positions that were recommended to us after a study of our special ed department. So our students our students with disabilities who are in that classification, grades 3 through 8, their composite math score was a 20% pass rate versus the state's 40% pass rate for those same kids for the same group of tests. And this had been going on, like that was, I mean, it's not last year, we don't have last year's data, but that was from the year before that. And then part of what Osborne's issue, and not just Osborne, but several of our other schools, part of what their issue has been under the state accountability frameworks, which used to be accreditation, which is now these different ratings, on track, off track, whatever. Part of the persistent issues that had been going on at Osborne and other schools was that our students with disabilities were not performing well and had an unacceptable, like by the state's judgment, an unacceptable gap between how the students who were not in that category were performing. So at one point I raised my hand and I was just like, we got to study this. Like this, we cannot, we can't, we're clearly at our maximum. So can we can we hire somebody to take a look and generate for us a set of recommendations? And the board unanimously supported that. So I was happy that the board unanimously supported that. And we got the results of that study. And so part of our biggest unmet need was funding the positions associated with that, which was basically the recommendation was that our special ed teachers were spending too much time in administrative work, that was burdening and overwhelming them. So this is essentially like a lead teacher position where that will take a lot of that work away from them so that you can spend more time actually teaching and working with the kids. So, and that is, we've just gotten, before the holiday, we had just gotten, the superintendent's office had just gotten the actual calculator that the state releases in terms of how much we can expect from the new budget. And so there's optimism that we can get most of the way there for funding most of those
that's good.
positions. But we will see, that's very pending. And we will see, and even by the time this airs, right, because you get the calculator. It's been my experience on the board that sometimes they mess up the inputs into that calculator, and not the superintendent's office. The state will have to say, "Oops, sorry, we messed that up." We have to redo it. We're all going to get a public. There will be a public presentation. We're going to have to amend the budget with it. So it's so that's coming. But there is optimism that part's going to be taken care of. Our other 2 things were basically related to our cybersecurity attack, we've discovered a lot of vulnerabilities there. So this would be for contracted services for a place like Matrix Computer Consulting, for example, that would take on more of our cybersecurity so that because our internal IT department is at its maximum in terms of its headcount and its expertise. And so, you hire a place,
Sure.
You contract out some other, there are certain functions you can contract out and that to enhance our cybersecurity. So that was unmet need number 2. And
did you get any money for that?
Well, we'll see. Priority number 1 was the special ed thing. So anything more, if all of that's met, then we can go into priority 2, and then we can go into priority 3.
Right.
Priority 3 was a global welcome center, which I think I talked about in one of my other appearances here. But right now, if you are trying to register for Manassas City Public Schools, you have to do it at each of the schools. So if you have
I remember this.
if you have 3 or 4 kids, you might be taking
several places
and taking a day trip. And then if you speak a language other than English at home, there's a battery of tests we have to give you to assess your English language level.
Right.
And right now we pull teachers to give those tests. Right. And so setting this up means that our teachers can stay in the buildings, can stay teaching, and that you could take those tests.
Other people could
that the people at our Global Welcome Center could administer those tests, and that would help. And that makes it a more user-friendly experience for the parents. I think Prince William County definitely has a Global Welcome Center. I'm pretty sure Manassas Park does. This is
it makes sense.
Yeah, this is not really breaking new ground in terms of how this is done. People have kind of given me a hard time about this priority number 3 being like, well, it sounds like overhead. It's just like, well,
it is,
but the overhead means that teachers stay teaching.
That's right.
And so that's what we need them to do.
Well, I mean, in the private sector, there's overhead and you want to manage that overhead, but there's, wise use of overhead where, my office manager, she does all the client contacts, she sends the quotes, she answers the questions. I don't want my techs doing that. No. It's kind of like your teachers.
Yeah, right.
I don't want my techs buying hardware from random places on the internet because it's $5 cheaper or whatever. No. You guys answer IT questions.
Right.
She does all of this other stuff. So they're different skill sets.
Yeah, they're different. And if you are being asked to do a different function, you're not doing your primary function, and that's and now we're not using you.
Right.
It's just not efficient. So I am really supportive of that. And actually, also as an example of how overhead can make a difference, one of the new positions we had this year was an alternative education coordinator. And this was a discussion we had at our retreat. Our discipline statistics have improved a lot, and like really a lot. And what's, of course, the natural question as we were discussing at our retreat was, how, to what do we attribute these improvements? And the part of the answer was we have an alternative education coordinator whose whole job it is to look at our at-risk students and what's their profile? Why are you missing school, or why are you misbehaving in school? What actually is the best option for you? Should you be at independence, for example, or are you a candidate for pathways? Maybe actually what's going on with you is that you have a chronic health condition, and maybe homebound instruction is what's best for you. Or have someone who's thinking about that all the time and have that be their job instead of, previously it was on individual principals, and individual principals don't necessarily have the whole portfolio of the division, and they've got a whole bunch of other things they're doing too. So to have this be consolidated under one person, it's like all the building has to do is be like, this kid needs.
They just need to identify.
This kid needs more attention. That makes it, and now we have a person whose expertise it is to be like, okay, how can we get you serviced so that you are receiving an education, but you are not.
How many kids are in Pathways?
So we ended the school year with 25, I believe. I think the goal was 26, and I think we ended the school year with 25. There's capacity for 60
That doesn't
students.
seem like a lot.
It doesn't seem like a lot. It's not, and it's not a lot. It's not. These programs,
But it makes that big a difference.
These programs are small. I mean, yes. Well, it's not just Pathways, right? Like Independence Traditional School, we only have 20 slots there, right? These are.
Are they full?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, so with Pathways, we have effectively doubled our alternative education offerings. And now Independence that can be a little bit misleading because Independence, they have shifts. Kids don't go, not all kids go all day. You can sometimes go half day. So you can sometimes sneak 2 kids into one of your slots or whatever. But it is, I mean, these are small programs. I mean, they're only effective when they're small because you're talking about kids with
high intensity,
high intensity, high needs kids, and
I get it.
And they need a lot of attention. So it is. The programs are small, but they're impactful to the kids who get in there. We had, I think it was 2 Osborne, 2 graduates out of Pathways that were not on track to do that prior to getting into Pathways. And Independence is very much the same story. And not just that, we also have an evening school at Osborne, and a lot of people, this has been going on for several years, and it kind of falls to the background. People sometimes forget about it. Sometimes I forget about the Osborne Evening School, but that's also really impactful because if you are a young parent, for example, or if you have family responsibilities where you need to work during the day, we can get your high school education for you in the evening, and it's only certain kids that qualify for that too. And that's also part of the alt-ed coordinator, like, okay, what's your profile and how can we serve you? And that program is a little bit bigger than, there's something like 80 or so kids in the evening school versus, the 25 or 26 that we ended with at Pathways versus the 20 or so.
And those evening school kids, those are like kids, like 15 years old or something.
I mean, I think most of them are upperclassmen. I think most of them are juniors and seniors. But I mean, you're. It's not a GED program. It is high school.
Right.
You're attending high school at night, so it's.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there is obviously, if you are no longer eligible to attend high school, then there's GEDs that you can get.
Right. Let me ask you a question. This is going to be a little bit out of left field, but not a ton.
Okay.
I think that like when in like 2008, when I was in office, I worked a lot with the schools to try and come up with new kinds of programs. And the schools mostly weren't really interested in my opinion on how to run the schools, which was
run for school board, Andy.
No, which was predicted by some of my compatriots on the city council and later confirmed. But it was as a part of that, and I enjoyed working with them. But as a part of that, you start drilling into like whatever you call it now, but like English as a second language kind of stuff. And it was always sort of I always just surmised that at some point, what would happen with the curve on ESL was, especially back then, it was still going up. But then, as more and more of those families assimilated and the young ones started going to school and they were learning in English in kindergarten or first grade or whatever, that would start to kind of do this. Has anything like that happened?
I mean, so it is, it's still true that it's still easier to learn a second language when you're young.
Oh, sure.
So we have the kids who graduate the fastest from an ESOL designation are the kids who start the earliest. So if you come in kindergarten, a lot of those kids, we can have you fully graduated from the program by the time you're done with elementary school. If you are entering for the first time and you're 17 years old, that's just harder. Your brain is hard.
It's harder to learn.
It's just harder when you're that age. But this is something we're starting to look a little bit more closely at as well, in terms of like, okay, what holds back our long-term Ls, or what their designation is.
Right.
If you're staying in the L program, you're staying L designated, I think for 5 years or longer is what makes you a long-term L. It's just like, okay, so what's going on here that you're not progressing, and how can we help you do that? People also kind of misunderstand what it is to be ESOL. It means a lot of kids who are designated even level 2 ESOL. So level 1 is you're the least level, your least amount of English language, and then level 2 is just one notch above that. You are most likely conversational in the English language by level 2, because we're not talking about, conversations are easier.
Sure.
Puedo hablar español, pero no sé cómo se dice isosceles triangle en español. Like, it's very different to have a conversation like this. And actually, there was an ESOL, a level 2 biology class that I observed at Osborne. And the class is taught in English. Like, ESOL instruction is given in English. A lot of people don't realize that as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you are.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, and also there's a lot of studies on, if you translate, you just wait for the translation, right? You just like, I know you're going to say it in the easier language for me, so I'm just going to wait. So it is, the instruction is always given in the English language. You're allowed to do like facilitative translations where it's like, oh no, this one, not that one, or whatever. But the instruction is supposed to be given in the English language. But level 2, so the instruction's in English. There is an ESOL teacher in the room. So there's 2 teachers in the room. Teacher 1 is going through the lesson, and teacher 2 is out with the students. And then one student raises his hand because they're talking about the carrying capacity of deer in an ecosystem. Yeah, so what's carrying capacity? And even if you speak English conversationally, I know what it means to carry. I know the word capacity.
This is not
but
that.
What is this? Like, what is carrying capacity? And so she goes over and she explains, she gives him a more detailed explanation about what carrying capacity means in a scientific, biological sense.
Right.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what goes on with that. This is now I'm back out at the doors, and now I'm back out talking to the general public, and it's just like, oh, well, there's so many ESOL kids, which means that English isn't spoken in the schools, and it's just like, oh, no, it is.
So a number of ESOL kids, has it like leveled off or gone down, or? I
mean, so we have
roughly.
That's not a chart I've looked at recently, so I don't want to speak inaccurately, but it's been pretty level.
Has it?
Yeah, I think the reason I'm not remembering it is because there hasn't been.
If you're not remembering it, it's probably, odds are status quo.
I think the odds are status quo, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I took like 2 or 3 years of Spanish from Miss Neifeld. Yeah. I'm actually friends with her on Facebook. My high school Spanish teacher.
There you go.
I have retained enough to order food in a Mexican restaurant, find the bathroom, and order a beer.
There you go. Well, that's what you need. You don't need to know carrying capacity of beer.
I don't need to know that. Well, I was in a there's a little store, Latino store, or I don't know what you call it. It's a store that has. They sell a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to they make like this green juice, like that they have a juicer thing and and I asked the lady, I was like, KSSO. And the problem was she answered. Yeah, and there were a lot of words in there that I just did.
You asked an open-ended question. That's
yeah. That was a mistake.
Get yourself into trouble there. But no, I mean, we have had a demographic shift that we saw in the last school year in terms of the cohort of kids who were kindergarten age last year. They were born in 2020 or 2021, which means that a lot of them weren't born at all because it was the pandemic and people delayed their childbearing plans. Yeah. And that's now that we have access to birth control in this era of history is something that people do. People didn't have much of a choice when they were, when Rome was burning. But but in our modern society, birth rates go down when crisis hits. And that was an era of crisis, and so a lot of people who had been planning to have kids decided to delay them a few years.
I mean, if you have a choice, uncertainty really impacts that.
And so, and actually, I remember this when I was at Alphabet Cooperative Preschool. That's at the time, they have 2-year-olds in there now, but at the time we were just a 3-year-old and just for 3 and 4-year-olds.
Right.
And when this 2020, 2021 kids were turning 3 years old, our enrollment, and we're calling other preschools to be like, do you have kids? We don't have kids. Do you have kids? And they're like, we don't have kids either. Where are they? That was actually some tough years for that preschool because you've only have 3-year-olds, you only have 4-year-olds. And so, and you go from an enrollment of like 18 down to an enrollment of 6. Like it was really
that's brutal.
A big drop.
Yeah.
And then, 6 kids became, you add 2 or, you had 3 or 4 kids, 6 kids becomes 10 kids as people, because some people don't send 3-year-olds to preschool. So your 4-year-old class is always bigger. But the birth rates they've not recovered pre-COVID. So that's a problem, from a school facility usage point of view.
Well, I mean, when birth rates are being covered on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, it's an issue.
I mean, and so we're having now our kindergartners who were in Manassas City Public Schools last year. It was a small kindergarten class. It was a small kindergarten class.
Wow.
We went from 120 or so 4th graders in some buildings to 89 kindergartners. Right. And that's huge. And that's that's COVID and birth rates. So we're hitting the birth rate low right now. They did recover a little bit after COVID, but they've not exceeded what they were.
So do you think you're going to see an enrollment sag, bottom work its way through the...
Right. Well, the other confounding thing that we have in Manassas City specifically is you can actually see the impacts that immigration has on...
Oh, sure. I bet.
Yeah. And that's something we have zero. That's nothing that any school board controls.
So have you seen enrollment fall because of like the immigration enforcement stuff?
Well, you see the kids who walk through the door, the kids who aren't walking through the door, you don't know necessarily what happened to them. I know from my experience in the preschool by looking at the birth rates that a lot of them were just not born.
Right. But I mean, just in gross numbers, white, Latino, it doesn't matter. Just, are we seeing like an enrollment dip work its way through?
I mean, it's very possible. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing some schools had a very big, some schools had 4th graders that were
Fairfax County, I think, had a pronounced dip.
We had a pretty big dip. And that makes facility planning hard because it's like, okay, well, I'm reasonably certain what immigration policy is going to be through the end of 2028, but come January 2029, I have no idea.
No.
I have no idea what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so if you're adjusting, there are folks who want like, oh, this is the new normal and you need to start talking about how you're going to be managing a shrinking population. It's like, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because birth rates, yes, but there's more to, kids come from more than just Prince William Hospital. There's...
Right.
And that is very difficult. That's very difficult to predict. These last several years, it's been down and it's been up and it's been down. And where are we going next? Do I have any reason to think it's going to stabilize? I don't know. But we're paying people who are better experts than me, or better experts than you, better experts than anybody to do these projections for us, because it is something that it does worry me as a school board member, because you don't want to make the wrong decision.
Well, you don't want to spend $40 million on a school and, everyone's kind of looking around like, what are we going to do with half of it?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a little dramatic.
Right. I mean, yeah. Or if you end up, this, birth rates will never recover, immigration will never recover, and none of this will ever recover. And then you start, I don't want to use the C word because no one's actually talking about this, but let's say some future board starts talking about consolidation. What happens if you consolidate a school and then all of a sudden,
because immigration could be a thing.
Here everybody is. So it's, so it's frustrating.
Well, I mean,
to deal with this.
You just got to leave your options open. I think
level of so yeah. Well, like I said, we're getting a facility study done that does include a analysis of our of the school age population and how many people we can expect over the next how many kids we can expect over the next several years. And so there are people whose whole job this is.
That's still like voodoo. I mean,
there's people whose it's their whole job, and so I'm going to trust them to do their whole job. And I really look forward to that report because we do have some things going on. We have New Jenny Dean has capacity, fire marshal capacity, 900 to 1,000 kids, but it's a 630 kid school now.
Right.
So there 630 or so kids are going to move into a building that can fit a third more students potentially. And do we keep it that way? Because in our previous study, our previous demographic study, the Dean boundaries were identified as high growth, right? Because it includes Bristow Station and parts of Georgetown
GTS,
South, and so those were identified. You're going to have a lot of student growth in these boundaries specifically. It's just like, I'll be curious to see what our new demographers say.
Manassas is becoming this wild place where, I was born here and I grew up here, and Georgetown South at first was a relatively desirable place, and as that first sort of group of young adults either sold and moved or moved and rented, Georgetown South suffered. And then, there was a big drug problem there for some number of years, and it wasn't very desirable. And, the police opened a substation in Georgetown South. It got so bad. And I was shocked the other day when someone told me that the average sale price in GTS is like $400,000. You have to be kidding. I mean, how is that a thing? I mean, that's so expensive.
It's so well. First of all, houses are just so expensive. Houses are just so expensive. Secondly, it is a very I get to go in there, right? Georgetown South, I think, suffers from the fact that it's essentially a closed loop. There's no reason to go in there.
That's 100%.
Unless you have business in there, and there are events in there. So as a school board member, I have the opportunity to get to get in there for different things. And obviously when you run for office, you knock on doors. So but if I wasn't in that role, I would just be driving by, and if my neighbor who only remembers it from 1992, if I have just their representation to go on, I wouldn't know how much.
Well, you wouldn't go back there.
Right. I would have no idea. But when you're actually in there, I see it. And it's actually, my husband and I, when we lived in Arlington, we lived in a community that was very similar to Georgetown South. It was that same style of brick townhomes.
Right.
And it was, we couldn't live in a place like that. We have 5 of us now. Oh my goodness, so many people. There was only 2 and then 3 of us when we were in one of those before. And my husband was not working from home back then, so needing an office space was not a consideration for us. And so, but now it's I don't know how we would live without. I don't know how we would live without without his office space to be a door that closes. But it's a desirable way to live. It's kind of a lower lift for first time owners to be okay, I don't have to do an entire exterior. I don't have a lot of mowing.
There's not that's exactly.
There's community grounds where if I do have kids, I can
take them out there.
They can go out there. The playground's there. My kids play out there. I've had my kids come with me and they play in there, and it's no problem at all. So it's in a way, it doesn't surprise me, because I'm a little bit closer to I'm middle-aged now. I identify as a young person because I have a 2-year-old, but I'm not really a young person. I am closer, but I know a lot of young people because I do have a 2-year-old, and young people are more likely to have them. And that kind of, townhouse living with community grounds and resource, that's very desirable. And you can walk to a lot from.
Well, I think, so I grew up in Old Town. But back then, when I was a kid, like not all of Old Town was all that desirable.
No.
There were some noticeable holes in the fabric there, but I can only imagine that like townhouses or condos, that's much more intense community living. And I think you're much more likely to participate in stuff in the community than some of what happened like where I was there. I mean, there were still a lot of kids where I grew up, but I mean, nothing like over there. And when it was either TJ or Meg, I think he told me the average price was $400,000. I thought that seems like an impossible number.
I mean, it's like, well, all houses are.
No, I get that.
All houses are expensive, but Georgetown South is desirable. Like it is. I get it. I see it.
Yeah,
Having purchased a house very similar to that at in a different place, and it's funny because that was. I mean, this is in Arlington County, so. What counts as a tough neighborhood in Arlington County is also kind of.
I don't feel like it exists.
Is also kind of a different thing, but like but where we were was also like, you're south of Columbia Pike. Oh my god, yeah. This is like
you're in the boonies.
It's like it's great actually, and if what you're chasing is an urban experience where you are around people and where you have amenities, Georgetown South has that. So
well, it does, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was over at the food truck, which is one of in the top 10 restaurants in Manassas for sure. Not to mention La Jarajita, which is right there.
I know. The two of them are, they're both very, very
My buddy Rich, he's from New York.
Yeah.
And he goes to that food truck, like I think on the regular. And he tells me, like, he gets these different things. And I eat there too. But someone mentioned to me, they're like, yeah, at some point, probably going to gentrify this little strip. And I was like, what?
I know.
Like, I was in a panic. I was like, stop. Don't do anything.
I mean, there's a lot that...
I mean, I get it's valuable.
Right. I mean, it is unfortunate when things like that happen. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, right?
Yeah.
That's like way in the future. But that is, if I'm walking around and I'm a developer and I'm keeping my eyes out, I'm looking, look at these ultra expensive luxury townhomes that have gone in over here, and look at what walking distance is over here. And shouldn't this be a Barnes and Noble instead? Right? Like I can see the developer mindset like that. But that is like... We got to get around the corner from the hotel, and we got to turn the corner on that. But there's like a lot that has to happen, and I'm just going to enjoy La Jarajita and La Tufita like while we still have.
I love those places
because those are very.
Yeah, I mean the hotel and the parking deck. I don't love the parking deck side of the street. I don't like that proposal at all. It looks like a fort. A military fort to me.
I just don't understand why the rendering that they're making public is from this up here, because that's not how you experience. That's not how you're going to experience the building. You're going to experience the building on the.
Well, but if it's massed right to the edge of the sidewalk, like those townhouses are right across the street from, diagonal catty corner across the street from the Catholic Church. I mean, they mass right up to the street. And it's like being in New York City. Right. I mean, in Manassas, but I don't love that one at all. The other side has got to become. We have to get moving.
Yeah. Well, you're cracking me up right now, Andy, because when I go and I knock on doors and I tell people I'm your school board member and I'm running for school board, and then all the time, without fail, what they want to talk to me about are city things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And it's like, that's actually, I've got opinions. We all do. But we're here to talk about the schools, just to remind you.
I'm not going to put you on the spot for that. That's been popular on Facebook the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, well that's just, I wish that they had give me a more real, how am I going to experience this? Because it does look like Meredith House is like a little Monopoly set compared to the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I don't love how this looks, but but that's not how. But there are ways where if the top parts are set back or whatever, that it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, you mass away from the sidewalk
when you're actually on the ground. And so I just want to see, what does it look like when you're on the ground? Because that's what really tells the tale. And I lived in New York City for years. And and you go down to the financial district, and it is kind of disconcerting down there because these skyscrapers are huge, huge, huge,
Yeah.
like hundreds of stories. And it was built in the old Dutch part of town where the streets are super narrow.
Right.
And so you do
And then they
feel,
turn.
and so you feel like you are walking through it is a little bit of an unsettling feeling when you do that, and is not something that you would want to really invite into. I mean, anywhere. I don't necessarily think that was I understand why the far downtown in New York developed that way, because it was the confluence of, you could get there from Jersey and Long Island and
Sure.
from other parts of the city fairly easily, and from Staten Island on the ferry. And so there are all of these, industry, all of these companies built their headquarters there. So I understand why it happened, but also from just a livability point of view, it is like,
It's not much.
it's not super, it's not super appealing, but you also have to, if you want something there, and you don't, that MIFCO site is it's not beautiful, nor is it historically significant. So we can move on from the MIFCO site, and I want to see what, and we can bring more to our downtown through that MIFCO site. But you need a project also to be viable. Part of the reason why things are expensive is that they are expensive to build, and so and the only way that you get to economic viability on the part of a developer is if you have a certain.
No, that's the project has got to pencil out. The budget's got to work.
You got to pencil, right?
And
no one's going to do it for free.
The problem that I see currently is that the current administration is very willing to participate in monetary fashion in these projects, and I think that there are certain key properties where that's maybe not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't think $6 million at the airport is a key property. I think it's more like a campaign promise that somebody made while they're busy raising tax rates at 8%. And I promise you, I'll get back to the schools. But anyways, that
switched me.
I'm all for that hotel idea. So when do you think you'll get, people doing studies on like demographics and facilities? When does that come back together, and then you'll take it to a retreat or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come out in phases, because these things cost a lot of money, and so we didn't have it in a single fiscal year to fund the whole thing.
Makes sense.
So it'll be rolling out over the next year, basically. I mean, it's going to be a while before we wrap our whole heads around.
I mean, those are all long-term things anyway.
Yeah, they are very long-term. I mean, we got some quirky things going on in Manassas. We have a high school that its capacity is fine, but if we have school buildings with 89 kindergartners, what's happening there? As those kindergartners matriculate, and assuming they don't get augmented by later arriving students. But most studies show that your kindergarten class has a high level of prediction in terms of what your graduating class is going to be 13 years in the future. So it's like, okay, well, how do we manage this? How do we handle this topsy-turvy kind of situation if it turns out that this is projected to be a more permanent phenomenon? How do we, Baldwin Elementary, Baldwin Intermediate, that's always been something that's been on my radar in terms of like, okay, there's all sorts of logistical issues that we run in with that school being structured that way.
Are there intermediate kids in that building?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so that building is two schools.
Yeah.
Two administratively separate schools. So it is, pre-K to 4 in Baldwin Elementary on the first 2 floors, and then the 3rd floor and the administrative suite is Baldwin Intermediate on the other side. And there's only 40 or so kids that attend Baldwin Intermediate as 5th, 6th graders. And this is longer term Manassas City history. So I'll fill you in, but maybe you remember this. There was a period of time 20 years ago when the elementaries and Mets were overcrowded at the same time. So the solution was we're going to take a grade level out of the elementaries and a grade level out of Mets. And we're going to build Mayfield. And then, and I don't know how this happened, but within 5 years now Mayfield is overcrowded.
Yeah.
So now we have to build. Baldwin Elementary is on our list to relocate and rebuild. So while we're doing it, let's come up with a temporary solution. And it is my understanding that it was supposed to be temporary, that Baldwin Intermediate was going to be added to the top floor until a more permanent solution could be worked out. And the school's coming up on its 10-year anniversary, not this school year, but next school year. And so it's just like, in what sense was it temporary? But it's you do run into logistical issues in that building because poor Baldwin Intermediate, they can't have all school assemblies because Baldwin Elementary uses the gym, right? Or they can have an all-school assembly if they really schedule,
right.
If they really coordinate very closely with the elementary and make sure that full gym is cleared, and then, maybe the kids do health class or something that day, or can be totally outdoors that day or something like that. But it's just like, okay, so that's kind of an issue.
Well, so I was on the council when we voted to build that building.
Elementary, Baldwin.
The hybrid.
Or Mayfield.
The hybrid. No, not Mayfield was before me. So the Baldwin Elementary and the, intermediate. Yeah. And I don't really follow, like I follow you, and I follow Wolf, and I follow a couple of people, most of the elected people, but I don't do a whole lot like reading of minutes and stuff like that. I'm over all of that. It's out of my system. And
cheers to you.
Yeah, it took a couple of years, but I still retain an interest. I pay an awful lot in property taxes, so I retain an interest. But back then, the schools basically said, this is what we need. We have to do like you described. So from here to here, put them in a new building.
Right.
And I wasn't wild about the idea because I think that Mayfield had some issues.
Well, its roof collapsed.
There was that. But it just seemed like it was a weird arrangement, but we needed something. The old Baldwin School was, to put it kindly, past its prime.
Oh, yeah.
It had some issues, and we needed to build it. So they just needed, a bunch of capital money, which we managed to finagle on the city council side. And that which was probably the worst budget cycle we ever went through when I was on council, because you had people that were super passionate about, not raising taxes at all. They didn't want to build a building. They didn't think Baldwin was necessary. And I don't know. I didn't go to Baldwin when I was a kid, but I visited there while I was still in schools. And it was beat to hell. It was old.
Buildings have a life cycle.
Yeah,
at a certain point, they reach a point where you either have to majorly recapitalize them, or you have to tear them down.
Yeah. So there were lots of issues, and we knew we needed X number of dollars, and the council was almost evenly split. And so I went to one of the other less right-wing guys and the city manager, and I struck a deal with them. And the staff hated me for it, because we went through this, and I'm not going to say they're wrong, okay? But what I did know is we had to build a school. And so when we did that, I took the other council member, we went into the city manager's office, and we kicked the door shut and had it out. And when we were done, we had to make adjustments to the staff, some staffing levels. We had to defer some projects, but we had our pile of money to build school. So I really didn't know. I thought it was a little bit of a wonky idea, but I was like, I don't know. They know about running schools. I don't. So here's money, build the damn thing.
And I don't. So I understand the rationale for Mayfield, like why, okay, we had these two problems, so let's do that. And it does, and of course, I'm very much Monday morning quarterbacking this whole thing because I wasn't there. But looking at it now, there's a reason why other school systems do not do this typically. because we send our kids to 4 layers of school between the ages of 10 and 14. And every study out there shows that transitioning between schools is actually a majorly stressful process for kids.
I believe it.
Because you're in there with a new configuration of kids. You're in there with new teachers, new principals, new rules, new everything.
Yeah.
2 years isn't really enough time to get your feet under you before you're out again.
Right.
And you can have as many transition meetings as you want. There is nothing like walking those halls and being in there. And I'm actually seeing this now that I'm maturing as a school's parent. My kids are at Baldwin Elementary School. And I remember what it was like to go to every September they do an outdoor movie night. And I remember going there when my oldest was in kindergarten, and I didn't know too many people, and she didn't know too many people. It was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just sit here and whatever, and we'll, and we enjoyed the movie and it was fine. But there was a big difference between that year and then the next year.
Oh, sure.
And then it's like, oh, well, now I know all sorts of people, and now now she knows more people. And so she's having more fun. I'm having more fun. Like, we feel more comfortable. And then as the years go on, it's like, okay, now it's more people. Now, and it compounds. And our Baldwin PTO, it functions very well, in part because we get to hold on to people
right.
For so long that people, our president was a 4th grade president, not last year, but 2 years ago, and she handed it off to a 1st grade or a 2nd grade parent, and who has a bunch of kids who are younger than that. So she gets to continue the traditions and remember how to do things and maintain those connections versus, like Mayfield doesn't have a PTO, and then Metz is always struggling to get its to sustain its PTO.
Middle schools are always
right. Well, and then you do it only for 2 years. It's hard.
Right. Well, I went to 4 different schools when I was in schools in Manassas, because I went to what's called Pennington now, was Bennett. That was an elementary school. And then my 5th grade is actually, there's a little bit of it left. It's right next to the jail building. And the jail building was baseball fields when I was a kid. Okay. And so, but there's this white cinder block building. Oh. There's about a half of it left now. I went to 5th grade there. And then I went to Dean for middle school and then Osborne. Yeah. But I only went to 5th grade 1 year there. And I don't even remember how long. I don't even know if that school had a name.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes that happens. The city of Alexandria, they bought an office building and put kids in that office building for a period of time when they were redoing parts of their high school campus.
Yeah, well, I think
sometimes you just got to do that, and that just is what it is.
I think it coincides when the city started their own division.
Oh, okay.
Is when I ended up in that 5th grade thing. But I don't know. I was a kid.
This is like you're city of Manassas now. You can't go here.
Yeah, I know. Get lost. Yeah. So it was a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
so how's the campaign going?
How's the campaign?
Are you knocking doors yet?
Oh, no, I'm knocking doors. I'm out there. I'm meeting people, and it's very different to do it this time than it was.
Because now you have a record.
Yeah, and I have a record. People will have seen me or. And like, I don't want to overstate this. It's not like it happens at every single door. But sometimes people are like, "Oh, I remember you," or "I remember voting for you," or I follow you on social media," or "Oh, I met you in such and such place."
Right.
So that is happening more. It took me. Door knocking is in some ways it's slower. I can't. It's. So when I did it the first time, and I was this brand new entity just in the city, period. So everybody was new to me. So every door I had to climb this mountain of like who I am and what I want to do and what my background is and all that other kind of, it was just this big mountain I had to climb every single door, every single time. And now I have kind of a different problem where sometimes I'll knock on a door and it'll be someone, it turns out that I know, and they'll be like, "Come inside, let's have a beer." And I'm like, I cannot.
Can't do that.
I can't, thank you, but call me on November 4th and then I'll come over and we can do that. So it's kind of, I have a different set of problems now.
The first day I was knocking doors when I first ran for office. I knocked on a door that was in my neighborhood, right around the corner from me. And I didn't really know, it was an older lady that lived there. And I knew her just by, like, I knew she lived there, but I didn't really know her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to work up the nerve to knock on a door, and I had my little handouts. And and I went up, I finally was like, look, this has got to get started. So I go up, I knock on the door, and I said, I handed her my hand, I'm Andy Harover. I live right around the corner. I know you, you seem like a nice young man. Come on inside. And I said, oh, okay. And so we came inside, and then we went up on the back deck, and she had some tea, and I sat there in the blazing sun. I got all sunburned, and finally I got out of there, and I told Hal Parrish that story. He laughed at me and laughed at me. He's like, son, you have to get out of there in like 2 minutes. That's it.
Right. I mean, I think 2 minutes can be. I'll have a longer conversation if somebody really wants to get into it, but it's at a certain point you gotta move. You gotta move, and so there's and now that early voting has become such a popular phenomenon in Virginia, I'm only 10 weeks away from elections starting, from people starting to vote. From right now, from you and I sitting here talking.
I feel like early voting, I don't hate it, but I feel like it goes on for too long.
We have this state has one of the longest early voting periods.
Because especially like as a a candidate, when it gets closer to the wire, like you need to have a body there.
No, you do. If you want to win.
Yeah. Well,
you don't have to do anything, but if you want to win, you do.
Right.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's like what?
It's a
10 weeks or something.
It's 45 days. It's a terrible strain on the party, on the political parties. It's a terrible strain on the campaigns. It's a block for people wanting to run for office. Period. At all. End of story. Because it's like, well, I've got a job. And a lot of people have. And early voting hours are they start their business hours 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. or
I can't even imagine.
And so if you as a candidate want to be out there, and if you have a job, when exactly are you doing that?
Well, you can't have a job and you can't have a family,
right?
If you want to work that poll yourself,
right? No, I mean, and it's very so it's a barrier for people wanting to do it, and there's all sorts of, I mean, goodness, the reasons to not do it are so much better and so much longer than the reasons to do it. It's not actually, if you're making a rational decision,
right.
The rational decision is not to do it at all, because why invite this, and why invite that level of stress into your life? But someone's got to do it.
Well. Yeah, and I think, a couple of weeks I feel like would be fine.
In terms of if the intent of it was actually to capture people who were traveling,
right? That's exactly it.
Then we could do what most other states do and do 2 weeks. But that is part of the brass tacks. Political science calculation is that when you vote for 45 days, it makes it harder to mount a challenge.
Yeah.
Because if you are an outsider challenger candidate, people tend to vote for who they voted for in the past. And,
that's right.
Name recognition goes a long way. And
Manassas, they vote straight ticket a lot of times.
All right. And then there's that too. But the reason it measures like this sustain are that current electeds, the people who have the power to change it, aren't that interested in changing it, is because it is protective of, if you're already in office, that gives you a certain advantage just out the gate. If people start voting in mid-September, it's just like, okay, well, there's 2 names here and I only recognize one of them, so that's the one I'm going to do. Right.
I get it.
So it's,
I get it.
But it is what it, it is what it is. You play the game as the rules are laid out. And I am lucky that I don't have a traditional 9-to-5 kind of job, so I can be out there, and I will be out there.
Right.
I will be out there.
So do you have like a plan of like all the streets you're going to knock on?
Oh, I mean, I've got I've got my target lists, and I've got all of that kind of stuff. It's just as many doors as possible. You know, I was at the gym today. They're like, as many reps as possible, as many doors as possible, as many videos as possible. And the good thing about I started obviously I knew this time was coming that I was going to be running for reelection. And so I was like, okay, well, I've got to get good at the internet. I've got to figure out, how to do this. And so I started that about a year ago, figuring, just making out of my personal life more videos and things like that. And that reach is I don't have to pay for it, right? You know, if I get 7,000 people to view a post that, has my name and position on it, I've not paid for that. Like, that's just, I've paid for and out. So that's like, okay, so that was part of it. Part of it is, is what it is always is, talking to voters, raising money, buying ads when that time comes, and, putting signs out. I put a whole bunch of signs out in Old Town for the 4th of July.
I got one. Thank you.
I did Old Town specifically because I'm like, all right, a lot of people are going to come to Old Town for the 4th of July. And then a lot of people did not come to Old Town for the 4th of July. So I don't know if that really worked. But if you're elsewhere in the city and you want one, I've obviously got them. So out they go. Oh, some people were like, July? Like, you can take it down for Labor Day if you want to, I just want it out for now so that people can
pull it out, mow underneath of it, stick it back in.
Yeah. I mean, they are kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, and it is, several months in the future that they're up. So I get it when so a lot of the signs that were up, some percentage of them are going to come down. Yeah. Through the month of July and August, and then back up again for the fall. But I am, so just getting out there as much as I can. And I do have a record that I have. So I think there were a lot of people that were unsure about me when I first entered the scene. And I was this brand new commodity. Like,
you were.
Who is this person? There were folks who didn't trust my motives. If all you knew about me was that I was
I heard a lot of that.
Yeah.
The first time you ran, I heard a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, what is she?
Not to be trusted.
Not to be trusted. Like, who is she? She's this, so she's like this inner beltway plant who's, she's going to storm through our libraries, and she's going to, turn us all upside down, and she's going to be terrible. And, well, I mean, I haven't been quiet. I've been very busy on the board, but at every single library book that was in Manassas City Public Schools when I started my term is still there. Let the record reflect. So all of those worries, I hope are are calmed down and put to bed. Like, that's not what I'm about. Like, I'm here for the real problems that we face. And I'm here, and I'm in it for the right reasons. I got a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 2-year-old. My youngest is going to graduate Osborne in 2042. Which and I did calculate this the other day. No matter what happens to me this November, there are 8 school board elections between now and his graduation. So I'm not going anywhere. Right. And my joke, which is not a joke, is that the voters of Manassas, they have a choice that I can drive either from the front seat of the car, or if I lose this seat, I can drive from the back seat of the car.
Right. Well, I think that
until the time is right for me to come back into the front seat. But
I don't think there's anything wrong with having, like, what has turned out to be sort of like a contest of ideas, and let's see what the best way to do this stuff is. That's fine. Nothing's sacred in that thing, because the most important, the central issue is, educating kids.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's job one.
Yes.
And, if we have to have some difficult conversations, that's okay too.
Listen, I'm the accountability candidate. I'm the accountability person. I've never been shy from those difficult, fact-based conversations. This election cycle is going to be interesting because this is our first cycle where everybody has access to ChatGPT. Everybody has access to, AI, just AI in general.
Yeah.
Choo-choo.
Train.
And it's already kind of happening. I don't want to get myself in too much trouble, but there are people who I see their candidate posts and I see their candidate.
They have AI written all over.
And I am like, I've heard you talk in real life. Yeah. And this is not your voice.
Well, so the other place, we live some of the time down in Colonial Beach, and that's Colonial Beach politics are about 25 years behind Manassas, but still they're not immune from those AI, filters that you can put on. I mean, it's in all of it. It's in all of it.
Right. And it's one thing to be a tool. Like my new logo, actually I have it. So I have my logo before, the apple was like on the outside of the A.
Right.
And I was having trouble getting the apple to grow. I wanted it, a little bit tighter. And so it's like, so AI did help get the apple to grow out of the A in a way that was, pleasing.
Right.
But this is otherwise a person designed,
Right.
It's a person forward logo, and this is all
Well, you can tell right
person,
away.
this is all person done. But there are other, maybe I should add that as a tagline,
A person done.
person powered, people powered campaign here, because there's nothing, I mean, and that is like a much broader question about what our future even holds for us in general. But what is, AI, I don't want to get into a world where our elected officials in general are making their decisions because they're asking ChatGPT, someone says this and someone says that, which way should I vote? It's not ChatGPT's decision, it's yours.
Yeah.
Right. And so and you can use it to like, okay, well, what's the background of, what's the back, what are my demographic trends?
Right.
Help me understand
Right.
my demographic trends.
Right.
Okay. And I read that and I digest it with the other pieces of information that I'm receiving. But as our, and you can tell I'm a mom, right? Because I look at my young children and I'm just like, I need you to think. Like the other day, my 5-year-old, she likes to play these tedious games, like a lot of 5-year-olds do. Like, Mommy, guess what color cat I'm thinking of?
Oh.
And I'm like, black? No. And then, and the game can go on forever.
Right.
And then, so I'll play for a little bit, but I won't play for a long time. But do you know who will play forever? Is our
ChatGPT.
Alexa. Will
Yeah.
play with her forever in terms of what color cat she's thinking of. And I'll hear her doing that. I'm like, should I stop? Yeah, the Alexa has infinite patience for the number of cats and the color of cats that my daughter is thinking of. And so in a way, it's like, sure, if you want to think of cats and you want someone to, and you just want to do that, why not? But then I'm like, you should play with people and you should maybe learn that not everybody wants to sit for 30 minutes and guess the cat you're thinking.
Right. So like in IT, I hire predominantly younger folks who then we train. And at Matrix, we have a particular focus on women in technology. Mm-hmm. My wife works in the business with me. My daughter, she has her own life and her own job, but she pitches in sometimes when I need another opinion. But, we always make sure that we have at least a couple of female engineers. Mm-hmm. And in the IT world, that's a little bit different. Mostly it's dudes. But the younger ones, I mean, I definitely do see them like talking to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. Well, we use Claude, but or I'll chat with them and I'll be like, wait, what are you doing? Oh, I was asking Claude this question. They're scrolling forever. And I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
You need to put some brain power into
this. You need to do it. And so it's very
So well, here's the thing. How much do you guys spend much time on AI at a board level?
I mean, I don't. I mean, you mean for not as individual board members, you mean like for school.
Right, for the division.
So we do have an AI regulation. We did have an AI task force that came together and made recommendations for that. I do think, phase 2, like if Sara gets reelected to school board, not just AI, but kind of screens in general needs not a revisit or a think about, not necessarily even that we're going to change anything, just how do we compare in our usage to other divisions? How many minutes do each of our kids get at each different level, and just try to be more intentional about it. overall, like when AI first hit, and this was maybe 2 years ago that we put together this task force,
Right.
and they generated that set of recommendations. I mean, it just might need to be an ongoing, but I feel like it's already changed so much. 2 years ago, I remember actually we had someone come to public comment to talk about it, and I remember being like, okay, because I don't live in this space. I'm not a technology person, and
Right.
I'm not afraid of technology, but I'm also, you're not going to catch me at the tip of the point of any of these things. Right. So I was kind of like, okay, well, it sounds important and other people want to do it. So I'm happy to let them do it. But it is clear that there's a momentum here that is, potentially transformative and in a constructive and destructive way if you're not very, very careful about how you manage that. And the good thing about being here in Northern Virginia is that we don't have to go very far to get people who to get people who understand. And Colonial Beach, who's 25 years behind us, they'll get here in 2040 or so and to have this conversation. But we do have a lot of people we can consult and people who are willing to bring themselves into the conversation to guide us. And so I think that is definitely something that the school board in general is going to need to look at from a top to bottom point of view, like not just our high schoolers and their essays, but also to, are we sure that our kindergartners get enough, scissor and paper time, right?
Yeah.
Which I have no reason to think that they don't get enough scissor and paper time now, but you got to be intentional, and the board is an oversight body. So I want to, and that is part of it. And that's part of what I think I just bring to the board in general is that, my other joke, that's not a joke about my service on the school board, is I'm not someone who sits and nods. I'm a person who raises her hand.
Right.
And someone has, someone offered a critique at one point, like, oh, Sarah, you asked 44 questions in a single meeting. It's just like, and sometimes 44 questions need to be asked, right? And
and people vote for you because they want you to exercise your prerogative and understand it.
Right. Well, that's what I also, I was listening to you and Rich and about staff-led versus, council-led and how
It's a thing.
And how you feel like we have changed from one version to another. And the school board has definitely been it's kind of going, the trajectory is kind of going the other way. It had been a staff-led institution, and I think more and more now it is becoming a board-led institution. But it's something where to stay board-led, you need leaders. You need leaders to do it.
And you need a diversity of experience. Yes. You need people from all walks of life.
And you need to empower people to bring whatever it is they've got to say to bring them to this, to bring that perspective out, even if it's not a perspective you agree with, right? Which can be kind of hard. When I first got on the school board, there was so much agitation when I was first on the school board because I got there. Number one thing I wanted to talk about was that grading policy. It's just like, come on, I spent all this time, crusading against this thing, so let's talk about it. And that just even introducing the topic for discussion, not even it itself, like what the grading policy should be, just whether or not I was allowed to say anything about it or whether or not I was allowed to introduce anything on it was contentious in and of itself.
So when 2 years before, I think it was 2 years before I was elected, Jackson Miller got elected. Mm-hmm. And Jackson was the first guy who was like noticeably younger than everybody else on the council. Mm-hmm. And his big thing was overcrowding. Mm-hmm. And,
in the residence.
All the stuff that happened. And, people want to place blame for that wherever it is. At this point, it doesn't really matter. But we had a lot of discussion around stuff like that because the younger folks, when I was elected, I think I was 38. And the next youngest person, who wasn't Jackson Miller, was probably 60. And so, there's like a natural tension there, right? And, when I wanted...
You're pushing a button for me.
So for instance, one of the things that really irritated me was people would go put signs in the median
Oh,
And
get rid of those.
and it's against the code.
Yeah.
And it infuriated me. So, and it was one of the things that I talked about during my campaign. And so I was out for a run, I don't know, whatever day it was on a weekend, and someone had stuck one in the middle of a grant. So I pulled it out and I brought it to a city council meeting. And during council members' time, I said, I want to know why the city is not pulling these things out. And the staff, livid. They were like, all you had to do was call us. And I was like, no, I feel like, it wasn't getting done.
So you got to make a point.
That's right, you got to make a point. Or if you want to introduce something. So on the council, you have, it rare, I don't know that it happens anymore at all, but there used to be something called walking something onto the agenda. And that was, you're up there, TV cameras on, you're live, there's citizens, the mayor introduces the agenda, and you say, I'd like to add something to the agenda. That's a hanging offense. And Miller did it once, and I did it once. And I kind of regret it. I mean, I got beat up pretty good.
I mean, there is a saying that you can make people you can make them see the light, or you can make them feel the heat. And it depends on what your goals are for any, if you actually want the signs picked up. They saw the light after that, I bet. Those signs were being picked up, right? Yeah. And that they saw the light because they felt the heat of that in that moment. But it's I don't know. Age is an interesting. You introduce this topic, so I'm gonna talk. So I'm gonna take the bait and I'm gonna talk about it for a little bit because we have a 7-member school board and there's only 3 of us that have currently enrolled kids.
And it's all women, isn't it?
And it's all women.
Yeah.
And is 3 and I'm the only one who has who have non-teenagers,
right.
Kids that are younger than 13-ish.